The reality of functioning in English every single day, because there's no other language around you, is completely different from using English only 25% or 50% of the time at work. This is about using English 120% of the time, because it's the only language spoken where you live. One of the biggest shocks is realizing that no matter how good you thought your English was, it suddenly doesn't feel like enough, not just for work, but for everything around it. Your social life, the new communities you're part of, your children's education, shopping, appointments, everyday interactions, all of it. The level of frustration often depends on your language proficiency, but even at an advanced level, the gap can feel really overwhelming. As a former ESL teacher, for example, I truly believed I was well prepared for this transition. But I quickly discovered the difference between my English and native speakers' English, not just linguistically, but especially in terms of culture too. Ironically, being a teacher didn't make it easier. It even made me more aware of every hesitation, every missing word, every small or big mistake or error I was making. Personality also plays a huge role. When you are naturally introverted, for example, this experience can feel even more intense and isolating. I'm saying this because I have very outgoing friends who seem to live this experience very differently. They jump into conversations, take risks, laugh at their own mistakes, and somehow make the transition look easier. But personality does make a difference. For those of us who are more reserved, more self-aware, or more perfectionist, the experience can feel heavier. And every interaction can feel like a test. Every mistake can feel bigger than it really is. Still, one thing remains true for everyone, regardless of personality. You can't just wait for things to improve on their own. If you have ambitions, if you have professional goals, if you want to build strong life for yourself and your loved ones, then doing something intentional about your English is no longer an option. It becomes part of your growth journey. Because living in English is not just about speaking the language. It's about confidence, opportunity, independence, being able to fully participate in the life you're building. And that level of comfort doesn't happen by accident. It comes from conscious effort, practice, and stepping outside your comfort zone little by little. Now, the good news is this uncomfortable phase is not permanent, but it doesn't disappear on its own either. What truly makes a difference is being intentional. Shift from do I sound correct to did I communicate my message? Perfection slows you down, but communication moves you forward. Native speakers make mistakes too. What matters most is clarity, not flawless grammar. Accept that social English and professional English are two different skills. You might be excellent in meetings, but feel lost in casual conversations at a birthday party, for example. And that's totally normal. Small talk, humor, cultural references, these are learned through exposure, not textbooks. Build daily exposure, not just study time. Living in English means English has to become part of your routine, not just something you practice occasionally. That can look like listening to podcasts while driving, watching shows without subtitles, reading local news instead of news from home, or chatting with a neighbor instead of avoiding the conversation. Tiny daily habits create massive, long-term change. Stop waiting to feel confident before you speak. Confidence is not a prerequisite, it's a result. You build it by speaking, not before speaking. Every slightly uncomfortable conversation is actually a step forward, even when it doesn't feel like it. Find safe spaces to practice. Not every interaction has to feel high stakes. Join groups, classes, or communities where mistakes are normal and learning is the goal. Growth happens faster when you're not constantly afraid of being judged. Okay, now let's talk about the identity shift no one talks about, because improving your English at this level, it is not just about vocabulary and grammar, it's about identity, because you are learning how to express your personality in another language, show humor, warmth, intelligence, and confidence in new ways, represent yourself professionally and socially, and feel like yourself again, just in a different language. At first, it can feel like you became a simpler version of yourself, less funny, less expressive, less sharp, but that version is temporary. With time and practice, your real personality slowly comes back in English. And one day, you will realize you're no longer just surviving in English, you're living in it. I'm not there yet. I'm still right in the middle of this journey, still learning, still stretching, still having days where English feels natural and days where it feels heavy again. Because here's another truth people don't often talk about. See, for every assignment that native speakers already find stressful or intimidating, your stress and anxiety level is automatically doubled. You're not just trying to perform the task well, you're trying to perform it well in English. You're managing the content, the expectations, the pressure, and the language at the same time. The mental load is real and it's exhausting. But one thing I know for sure is this: we will get there. Not because it's easy, not because we suddenly wake up fluent and fearless, but because we choose to stay persistent, because we keep showing up, because we refuse to give up on the life we're building for ourselves and for the people we love. Progress in a second language isn't always loud or visible. Sometimes it's just one less moment of hesitation, one conversation you didn't avoid, one situation that felt slightly easier than before, and those small wins add up. So, no, I'm not at the finish line, but I'm not at the starting point either. And as long as we keep going, even slowly, even imperfectly, we are moving exactly in the right direction. Here's a tip for professionals who need to progress faster. Some jobs demand a higher level of communication than others. If your role requires you to write, speak, present, or interact constantly in English, you may feel extra pressure to improve quickly. One powerful habit to develop is self-checking and self-correction. And I'm saying this out of personal experience. Start paying close attention to how you communicate. Reread your emails before sending them. Notice recurring mistakes or phrases you overuse. Reflect on conversations that felt difficult and think about how you could phrase things differently. You can also use tools to support your growth. Writing assistants and language tools can help you notice patterns in your errors. You can even compare something you've written or said with a revised version to see alternative ways to express the same ideas. This kind of comparison is not about perfection, it's about awareness. And awareness is what accelerates progress. Most importantly, if you're struggling but still need to perform at work, get support. Ask a colleague to review an important email, for example. Work with a coach or take a targeted class. Practice presentations with someone you trust. There is no shame in asking for help. In fact, it's one of the most professional things you can do. Seeking support shows commitment, responsibility, and a real desire to grow. Hope it helps. Bye.